Hey, ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice.
So we all know that getting on the front page of Google or Bing can have a huge impact on your business, especially when it comes to getting more patients in the chair. But how exactly can you improve your practice's SEO? That's not quite as clear. So with no shortage of SEO advice and grand promises from shady marketers, it can be difficult to separate fact from fiction with regard to SEO. So that is the reason I always love talking with marketers and SEO experts who have the results to show. So Justin Morgan is one of those experts. He's the founder and CEO of Dental Marketing Guy and has helped hundreds of dental practices improve their SEO. So if you're active on Dental Town or any of the other popular dentist Facebook groups, you've likely seen him adding value and engaging with the community. So Justin doesn't just share a bunch of theory of what works, he has the clients and testimonials to back it up. I think you'll find Justin's approach to SEO easy to understand and very actionable. Here's some of what you'll learn. How to generate high quality backlinks without being spammy. The right time to focus on SEO and why it's important. How a strong SEO presence can help you get top dollar if you ever decide to sell your practice. The latest SEO tweaks that actually work. How to get into the psychology of patients to deliver better service and experience, and much, much more. And at the end of this episode, you'll also hear how to get access to Justin Morgan's exclusive secret 41-minute introductory video to his new dental SEO system, Invisalinx. So now, here's my interview with Mr. Justin Morgan.
Hey guys, sorry for the interruption. Really quick announcement for you. And if you're going to be a dental practice owner, you know you're at some point going to have to get a dental practice loan, whether it's going to be to acquire a dental practice or it's going to be to start a startup dental practice. You're going to have to get a loan. And I'm really proud to say that a company that I've worked with personally dozens of times over the past few years is our first sponsor after 80 episodes of Start Your Dental Practice. And our first sponsor is Bank of America Practice Solutions. So whenever you're going to be getting a new loan, whenever you're going to get a loan for starting your dental practice or acquiring a dental practice, you really want to make sure that you have three things when it comes to that loan. Number one, you want a really great interest rate. Number two, you want to make sure that the company that you're speaking with has a lot of experience and can guide you through the best path to be able to become a practice owner through the loan process. And number three, you want to make sure that the terms associated with that loan are the most advantageous for you. And I'm really happy to say that all three of these things, Bank of America just knocks it out of the park for you. And they've got some really great new promotions that I'm not even sure if one of these that they've even announced anywhere else other than what I'm about to say to you on the Start Your Dental Practice podcast. So, SYDPers, here is the announcement for this. So, number one, interest rates. They've got a couple of really great promotions. The first one is on new acquisitions. The first year of that loan, 1.89% for a dental practice acquisition right now in the first year. That's crazy low. You never even hear of loans dipping below 3%. Nonetheless, less than 2% on that first year. And then after the first year, it's still super competitive compared to everybody else out there because Bank of America always comes in as either the lowest interest rate or one of the lowest interest rates of any banks that are out there. So that's the first part of that. Again, you want to make sure you have a great interest rate. Number two, you want to make sure that the company you're working with has a lot of dental practice experience. I don't know if any company out there in the world has more dental practice loan financing experience than Bank of America does. They're fantastic at it. Their reps are really good, and they're going to be able to tell you if the deal is going to be able to get done or if it's not going to be able to get done. So they don't waste your time at all, and they can help you understand the different nuances throughout that process. Fantastic. The third piece of this is that the best terms. So here's the really cool part. A lot of people don't realize this, but whenever you are buying a practice or starting a practice up, most banks, if not, 90% of them out there, require that you have disability insurance as well as life insurance to cover the payments for that loan, as well as to cover the total value of those loans. This goes up and down quite a bit for different types of loan sizes, as well as different risk profiles for the person receiving the loans. But let's call it $600 a month for those insurance rates. Very, kind of middle of the line for you. $600 a month you have to pay in addition to the loan to be able to have those insurances funded, to be able to have that policy, to have that loan. Bank of America is getting rid of that completely. So you do not have to have that. If you think about that $600 a month, that's $7,200 a year. Over 10 years, that's $72,000 you're going to save by going with Bank of America Practice Solutions. It's really no brainer. If you're going to have to get a loan, which you are going to have to do 100%, you may as well go with a company that has great interest rates, has great experience with the industry, and has the best terms out there in the market today. So if you're currently in the process of shopping loans, 100% give Bank of America Practice Solutions a try. And if you would mention that you came through the SYDP community, it would help out the podcast a lot and also allow us to give back to our very gracious sponsors. Again, this is an advertisement, a paid advertisement. If you go to them, I will, have more advertising revenue come to me. So if you enjoy the podcast, I would appreciate you helping out our sponsors. And if you are interested in that loan process, just text the word bank loan, one word, BANKLOAN, to 33444. Again, that's bank loan to 33444, and we will reach out to you. Thanks, guys.
Hello, ambitious dentist. Today, I have with us the founder, CEO of the dentalmarketingguy.com. And if you've ever been on Dentaltown or in any of the active Facebook groups that are out there, you definitely know Mr. Justin Morgan, who is joining us today. So Justin is a SEO and marketing expert in the dental industry, and I'm really glad to have him on to the show. I was on his show a while back, and we're finally just now having a chance to get him onto this show, which I've been really excited for a really long time. I know firsthand that he provides results for his clients because we actually share one or two. So Justin, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Huge honor to be on here. I know you've got a pretty big audience, so thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem. We just hit the record button and then we just keep going. So actually, hey, one second, I'm going to restart this because I forgot to hit the record button on my podcast button, my podcast recorder. I did that on the last episode too, and it was really hard for the editors to figure out or to fix it. So I don't want to have to make them do that again.
Cool.
Hello, ambitious dentist. Today, I have with us someone that you probably recognize if you've been on Dentaltown or active in any dental Facebook communities. So I've been on his podcast, and we've been trying to get him onto this podcast, but it just hasn't worked out. But I'm really glad to today have with us the CEO of the dentalmarketingguy.com, Mr. Justin Morgan. So Justin's someone who I've really wanted to have on the episode before because he is an SEO dental industry expert as well as a marketing expert and an overall really nice guy that enjoys giving back to the community. So I know firsthand that Justin 100% provides results for his clients because I actually have clients from my CPA firm that I own that are clients of his. So Justin, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's a huge honor. I really appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. So tell me about the dental marketing guy. Tell me about your story. I think everybody wants to know, like, whenever someone is doing something with the dental community, how they got into the dental community. So tell me your story. What happened?
Well, I did SEO kind of by accident. I was in law school and I wanted to buy top ramen and tuition. And I decided, you know what, I'm just going to build rinky-dink websites for $500. And because I saw a lot of, I had a friend who was, he was actually designing websites for like $20,000. And, you know, I'd come over to his place and I'd coach him boxing, and he had the Mercedes and all the boats and everything. And, you know, I'm like, man, I mean, I'm coaching boxing here, making $80 a pop. And, this guy's making 20 grand a pop with his website. So I'm like, maybe I can do like a little $500 website. I can't do a $20,000 website, but I can do 500. And so I started putting myself through law school with that. And I realized, you know what, these websites don't do any good. They're not helping anyone increase their business. And then slowly started studying SEO. I ended up building my own website, and then I ranked it for SEO San Luis Obispo. And so that website's still #1 for SEO in my town. Haven't done anything to it in a long time, but it's still there. And so I realized, you know what, well, if I could rank SEO, I could probably rank less competitive keywords like carpet cleaning and stuff like that. So I eventually started gravitating more and more towards SEO, and it started turning into like a competitive endeavor. It started turning into this thing where it was like, I was into it. You know, the rankings were very objective, you know, whereas graphic design, artistry, these things, you know, photography, video, these things are much more subjective, much more, you know, in the eye of the beholder. And so I like the objectivity of the rankings. So I got really competitive with it. And then I talked to a business coach one time, and he was like, you know what you should do if you really want to go big is you should pick a niche. And I said, yeah, you know, because I really want to be the guy. I want to be the expert on what I'm doing. So I took a list of my clients, and one of them was a dentist. And I said, well, who do I like best on this list? Who do I like working with? Who pays, stays, refers? Who is just amiable and easy to work with? And I started noticing, you know, even the dentists that I didn't work with, I noticed they were pretty nice people. And I started comparing them to people with similar budgets like lawyers, and it was no contest. I mean,
nobody likes lawyers. Come on, lawyers and CPAs are the worst.
Well, you know, the irony is, I was in law school, so it made perfect sense. I could speak their language. I could be relatable in that way, but it just wasn't a good personality fit. I felt like, you know, everyone's always trying to pull one over on a lawyer. No one's trying to pull one over on a dentist. So they were much more open to ideas. And so, yeah, I ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for it. And I went all in about 2 years ago, and I haven't looked back. I don't regret it one bit. It's been really, really beneficial. And really, I think as much as it's been beneficial to me, I think it's been more beneficial to my clients because I'm able to focus on serving them much more efficiently. Whereas before I had to learn, you know, like, well, what do they do in a moving company? What are all the ins and outs, you know? Well, now I know dentistry, at least in the non-clinical sense, at least in the marketing sense. So it's been great. Anyway, that's the long-winded version, but yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love the, you know, sometimes I'll talk to my clients and be like, I heard somebody else did this and it worked out really well. And they'll be like, do you even know what that means? I was like, no, I just repeated they said something about a perio probe and some certain pocket depth of millimeters. And I don't even know what a perio probe is, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I do, but at the same time, I don't. Like, if you held a gun to my head, I couldn't do it to someone else. So yeah, I get the whole non-clinical thing. Like we kind of understand some of the words, but at the same time, it doesn't always help. But yeah, no, you know, you're a kindred spirit in that because of the fact that, like, you know, we just had somebody today that actually contacted us. It was like a nurse practitioner and was like, hey, can you help us with our CPA needs? We got a dentist buddy who said you're awesome. I'm like, no, not really, because you just wouldn't fit into our you know, realm of thought, really. We'd have to learn so much more about your industry, and it just wouldn't be, you know, it'd be a bad thing for our clients for us to have to, you know, think away from the dental industry to be able to help you. Unfortunately, I didn't say that to them, but that was my reason for declining the business. Yeah. So
100% agree. And it's so much more fun getting to be a part of a team of someone to help grow businesses and actively do a good job of it. Whereas, there's a lot of people out there that if you're just that guy that does that thing for all the other industries, you're only going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. So tell us about, as far as the SEO scene, tell us about like what, first of all, let's define SEO. Most of the people that listen to the podcast probably know what SEO is, but give us your kindergarten definition of SEO.
Well, SEO is basically figuring out what do searchers want and how does Google interpret that. And when you give the searchers what they want, when your website is the one that delivers the answers that people want, then you're going to rank higher. So, the next question is, well, once you've determined what patients are really looking for, and they really don't know what they're looking for. I mean, a lot of times they're looking for a specific answer to a question, but oftentimes when they're looking for a dentist, they don't know what they're looking for. They just know it when they see it. So that's part of the getting into the psychology of the searcher is really where SEO is heading. It used to be very different. It used to be where you paid someone who was in their own silo, completely separate from your practice, and they did something, and you don't really know what it was, but they did it and it worked. Nowadays, it's much more involved. It's much more sentient. It's much more based on searcher psychology. So if you can give patients what they want in terms of answering their questions and being informative and entertaining and inspiring them to call, that's really where the money is getting butts in your chairs. It's not so much about rankings. And what's interesting is the interest that people have in calling you and the interest that Google has in ranking you, I'm finding more and more emerging as time goes on. So a good quality website with content that answers people's questions and causes them to have some sense of trust towards you and your team, that's really where it's at. So that's the website itself, and you'll hear people call that on-page SEO, which is basically the content on the website, the message, and the coding of the website itself. And so that's more of a one-time set it and forget it, although you should add content over time to answer more questions. That's just reasonable. But that's the on-page SEO side, and I feel like that's a little bit more easy to wrap someone's brain around. It's a little bit more straightforward. The other aspect of SEO is what's called off-page SEO. And there's a little bit of debate, there's a little bit of speculation about, well, what is the best off-page SEO? And off-page SEO is everything that isn't involved on your actual website. So if, say, another website talks about you, say at the local news station or a popular dental blog like yours, and you talk about a certain client and you link to their website, well, that link is often seen as sort of an endorsement towards them. And so that's the primary, I would say under the Pareto rule, 80-20 principle, that's about 80% of your off-page SEO. So if you have your website dialed in and you're earning links from credible places, you're pretty much kicking butt in SEO.
You gotta get the link juice flowing, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's a question that I get a lot, or that, that I know a lot of people are thinking. Whenever I have these interviews, I try to speak from the mind of the people that are listening a lot of the times. And a lot of the people that are listening are people that, are new practice owners or are about to be a practice owner. So the question I have for you is, when do you start focusing on SEO for a dental practice? I mean, is it, day one, or is it something that you would have, if you're acquiring a practice? I'm assuming it's probably different than starting up a dental practice. But, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question because, I feel that SEO, and I'm a little bit biased because this is the angle that I come from, but I feel like SEO is so important to the value of a practice. Whether or not their website is ranking, whether or not they're getting leads from Google, I think should actually impact the price of that practice. I know the number that most dentists look at is the existing patient pool, right? So that's kind of the golden number. And then of course you got the equipment and all that, and the location is huge. But if you look at the potential of the practice as well, SEO is definitely one aspect of the potential of the practice. So I'll give you an example. If you have a website that, say you're gonna buy an existing practice, and that existing practice is ranked, say, number 8 for a variety of keywords, and there are over 1,000 searches per month for those keywords, and it's ranked on page 1, it's ranked number 8. That is not getting a lot of new patients probably, unless the website is so much better than the rest of the websites from a conversion standpoint. What's probably happening is there's a lot of potential there. So they might have 500 existing patients, but if you go from number 8 to number 1, you could see that patient pool grow from 500 to 800 in a couple years. So definitely something to look at. I mean, that's definitely something that I would look at and say, well, here's some potential. So I like guys like Scott McDonald, and there's other ones that they look at the demographics, they look at the psychographics, and that's really smart. And I've come up with kind of the SEO version of that, and I call it Vel-scoping your keywords. And Vel-scoping your keywords, it's basically like you would think. It's kind of like an oral exam. We want to know how many people are searching for a dentist on Google in your community. And then roughly, what does that mean in terms of new patient flow? Where are you ranked? So just take this with a grain of salt because it's very general information. But if you're ranked number 3, you're probably getting about 10% of the click-throughs. So if there's 1,000 searches, you're getting about 100 clicks at rank number 3.
Okay.
If you're ranked number 2, you're probably getting about 20%. So about 200 clicks out of 1,000 searches. And if you're ranked number 1, you're probably getting about 40%. So 400 clicks. So the difference is amazing. And then also, the quality of patients can change too, because a lot of people that scroll down towards the bottom of page 1 do so with the intention of believing that the less highly prominent dental offices might be cheaper. So that's kind of a generalization as well. But so take all this with a grain of salt. It's not solid, but with Vel-scoping your keywords, it's totally solid. We look at your community, the exact numbers, and we say, is there oral cancer there? Is there, are there caries? Are there cavities? What needs to happen? Do you need Invisalign? Basically the SEO version of that. And until you really do that, you're flying blind. And that's the problem with SEO, is not even so much that it's ineffective a lot of times or that it doesn't work, but that when it does work, suppose I get you ranked, what I discovered in the years that I've done SEO is sometimes I've ranked people and it just didn't put a lot of butts in the chair, so the ROI was low. So I said, well, how do I solve this problem? Because I did my job, I did what I was supposed to do, but just like every other SEO company that's effective, I thought I did a good job and I thought I should continue to get paid, but it doesn't work that way because you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. If the ROI isn't there, there's no sense in doing it. So Vel-scoping your keywords came out of that, and so that's the one thing that I think makes me very selective. I work with dentists who appreciate that deliberate approach, that what are we getting into scientific approach.
Yeah, just so it's an analysis of the opportunities available for that dental practice's website. So moving back to the acquisition and startup phase and things like that. Let's say it's an acquisition. Let's say that you're getting a practice that's 30 years old and they've just had a website up for 15 years. Is there any value in them actually acquiring that website and then turning into their website, or do they need to do anything else with it? What would you do in that fact pattern?
If I understand the question, I'll put it this way. There is a lot of value in having a domain name that is aged. So it's been there for 5 or 6 years. The reason why is it is very, very difficult to rank a brand new URL, a brand new domain name. So if you're rebranding, say you buy a practice and you rebrand, it takes a lot of SEO firepower to restore where you were, to gain that back. But I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, that's exactly what you're answering, because that's a question that a lot of people that are acquiring a practice may not even think to ask, to have the contract whenever they purchase the practice to include the acquisition of the website from the dental practice. So if someone acquires a website, do they have to use that URL so for example, if somebody acquires Jonathan Van Horn DDSPA, and it's Justin Morgan DDS that's taking it over, do you have to take jonathanvanhornddSPA.com as your URL, or what happens there?
I would think that should lower the value of a practice, the fact that he named it in his name, because you're going to have to get new signs, you're going to have to get new domain name, you're going to have to get all that new stuff. I mean, from an SEO perspective, it's easier to leave it as is. But in every sense, it's easier to leave it as is because it's been that way, But the fact is, when a doctor names his practice, a la 1960 in his name, he's not thinking about marketing. And so sometimes those practices, and this is probably more in your purview than mine, or at least other experts, but I would assume that if a dentist names a practice in his name, he probably wasn't doing very good marketing, because that is the first mistake that he made, or in terms of what I mean is, in terms of selling it one day. He wasn't thinking in terms of selling the practice with the marketing, So, yeah, that's not, you don't have to do anything, but yeah, I mean, if it's in someone else's name, I'm not sure how you would have another choice. And I think that in a negotiation of a sale, like I said, this dentist clearly wasn't thinking about selling his practice, or even maybe scaling it, into ultimate, most of the, last name dentistries, they're docs who love doing clinical work, and they love, just feeding their families and doing great work, and they don't have any grandiose dreams of being the next Aspen Dental. So when you sell your practice, that's a drawback, because some people might want to scale it or whatnot. But that's getting a little bit into the weeds there. The fact is, do what you want. But when you have a brand new domain name, and this is something that I get asked about pretty often myself, is, should we change our domain name? Because that age factor, that trust factor, if you've been around for 10 years, you will rank way easier than just buying a brand new domain name. So do what you want, but I guess it's just like anything else. You got to buy new signs, you got to buy new SEO, you got to buy new everything.
So if you were to buy jonathanvanhornddSPA.com and were to put a link on there to justinmorganddSPA.com, would that be of any value since it's an older website?
Yes, it would. Probably what we would do technically, and this is getting a little bit technical, but we'd probably do what's called a 301 redirect, where any links that were pointing to the old doctor's website would just redirect to yours. And so that would give you some link juice, like you said. That gives you the oomph that you need to be taken seriously. But if that doctor doesn't even have any links, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. Well, so as far as the website questions and the practice being purchased, docs just aren't really even looking at, the person in the front has been trained to ask, where did you hear about us? And if you're lucky, that they're asking that question.
Yeah.
And the patient always says Google or internet or website or something like that. Something very
analogous, something that you can't really figure out where it's coming from. Do you have any tips of how to better figure out where people are coming from, as far as if they're, because you're talking about how you're in the past, you're having clients that weren't getting an ROI. Did you find a way to be able to track where those potential patients were coming from?
It's a little bit more nebulous than, say, paid advertising. If you do a direct mail campaign, you can slap a tracking number on it. Of course, they could just go to your website and enter the normal number. So even then, there's things you can do as well. You can have like special URLs that they go to, special domain name. But the bottom line is, I really value tracking. But in my career, it's played a very little role. And the reason why is I think it's overrated in terms of accuracy. I think that when you do track, the ones that are geometrically tracked to a specific source, you can definitely attribute them to that source. But you can also not discount the fact that if you have a tracking number on your billboard, who's to say that they didn't just think about you while driving past it and then call from the normal number without hitting that tracking number. So you have kind of a, even in the paid advertising realm where you have geometric tracking, you still don't have perfect tracking. You're still getting more leads than you can geometrically track. So SEO is a little more nebulous, but the one tip that I would have, with that caveat in mind, the one tip I'd have is, if you have different people in your practice asking different ways, how did you find us? How did you hear about us? At different times in their appointment, at different times in their journey, you will get completely different answers sometimes. But ultimately, the one that is the most consistent is usually the most prominent factor. So if people say, I read your Yelp reviews, well, did they use the Yelp app on their iPhone, or did they use Google to find Yelp? I think you can boil it down by asking different ways, different people at different times. But ultimately, there's something about saying, I just found you on Google, that patients don't like to say. A lot of them will, but they like to back it up with some sort of logic. They don't want to sound like they stumbled into your office randomly, no one, well, not no one, but a lot of people wouldn't say like, oh, well, I saw your sign and I liked your logo, so now you're my dentist, but that's exactly how some people choose. I mean, if you look at like politicians running for office, it's like sometimes it's the guy with the most signs who wins, and it's like, it's kind of the same thing in marketing for dentists. If you've got a big noticeable sign, sometimes that's what it takes. But people don't like to admit that stuff. So you kind of got to dig deep and you got to be a little bit persistent without being annoying. And you got to ask different ways nicely and have different people ask, So that's the best advice I can give on that. You just can't geometrically track it. But if you're persistent about it, you can get pretty close.
So what would you say is the biggest mistake dentists make whenever it comes to, starting an SEO, or starting into the SEO world, I guess?
Pay and pray.
Elaborate.
You pay the guy and you pray that it works, and you don't ask any questions, and you just figure, well, this is what we got to do. Well, what's this? I mean, and the problem is this, quote unquote, I'm using some air quotes for those on the podcast, this is potentially completely different than what you imagined. I can't tell you how many times I've had a client, I say, this is what you're getting, and then 9-10 months down the road, they're happy with the results, but for some reason they started setting their own expectations. And you'll see this in dentistry too. They're like, well, I thought if I got a crown on this tooth, and I didn't know I had cavities on this tooth, those weren't there a year ago. So how did that happen? And it's like people imagine they get a crown on one tooth so there wouldn't be cavities in the other one. It's completely insane, but that's how some people's brains work. So I think, for my side, setting expectations is really important. And I think from the client side, same thing. You got to run by some ideas. You got to have someone who who understands and wants you to succeed. I mean, it's just too easy to say, well, SEO takes 6 months or SEO takes 12 months. But to not have an idea of what you're up against. You didn't scope your keywords. You don't know what to expect. Suppose they get you ranked and you still don't have that many calls, and then now you're disappointed. So the pay and pray model, the antithesis to that is scoping your keywords.
Very cool. So tell me about this Invisilinks method.
Invisilinks method is about being clear why you're linking. I call it the Invisilinks method because the links are invisible to your patients usually, but they align with those who need the guidance. So Google's one of those that needs the guidance. They need to know, who are you? What are you all about? Who are you? What are you relevant to? And one of the biggest ways is to get links from high quality dental websites or high quality local news websites and geographically relevant blogs. That's you want to be geographically relevant and you want to be dentistry relevant. And those two types of links are very powerful. So I call it the Invisilinks method because, I mean, we're basically lifting the veil on it. I mean, I'm showing how it works in my dental SEO course. I say, you know, here's the links that no one will show you. I had a guest on my show, really great guy named Andy Crestadina, and Andy is just an amazing marketer, and he knows SEO, and he came on and he said, basically, the way that you get lots of attention, the way you get lots of links, the way you get buzz is to think of the things that everyone in your industry knows but is afraid to say, and talk about that. And that's what's going to get you links, and that's what's going to get you social shares and get you all the buzz and the PR that you want. And so I thought about that, and I said, well, I don't want to show the links and all that because someone might copy me. And so I operated that way, like most SEO companies, kind of in secrecy. I thought, you know, I don't want anyone to come in and with superior firepower and gun me down. I don't want to show anyone the blueprint. But I realized, you know what, for my own success and for the sanity of the client, I got to at least show the client. And then from there, when I got used to showing the client the deliverables, as we call it, I decided, why not show everyone? Why not show, well, maybe not everyone, but show everyone about 80% of the strategy. Keep about 20% of it secret. So I always got that edge. I'm always ahead of the curve, but I'm not keeping it a secret, you know, and that's why I'm able to, you know, get links from amazing places like CIO.com, Salesforce.com, Desk.com. They've all linked to me, DentistryIQ.com. They're linking to me because I'm giving value that a lot of people could. A lot of SEO companies could, but they just refuse to. They're afraid to. They feel that scarcity mindset, and that's where I was for a long time. So the Invisilinks method is about dispelling that. It's about showing what other companies want to be invisible and just blowing the doors off of it and showing it to the client.
Very cool. So you're allowed to really up the SEO for multiple clients at that point, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it drives a lot of accountability, and it's been good for me because I can adjust different packages. And so depending on how aggressive the client wants to be with the SEO, I can say, well, for this package you get this, for this package you get this, for this package you get this. And it works great because, you know, I basically let the client decide. You be the judge. You know, this is your business. Instead of the, you know, let the debit card run for an amount of money that you don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how anyone could be successful in a competitive field, you know, for competitive keywords for like $300 a month. I don't know how that's possible, but I think the way that it's possible is they just don't do anything.
You know, for some reason, I hear a lot of people
They'll do their own financial planning, or they'll do their own accounting, or God forbid they do their own taxes. And there's a lot of people that do their own SEO. And man, I wouldn't have the mental bandwidth to do half of those things, other than obviously the accounting and the taxes. So, it's tough to be able to get through those things on your own because they so constantly change. Speaking of that, does SEO change over time?
Yeah, of course it changes. It's become more sentient. It's become more reasonable. It's become merged with real world marketing. They've got to measure relevancy, and they've got to measure authority. And the way they measure those two things has changed over the last 5 years amazingly. You used to be able to just run some software and you blast links to obscure websites, and the more links you got, the higher you ranked. And it didn't matter. They didn't discriminate. A link from dentistrytoday.com was equal to a link from some Chinese website about flowers. It's like all you needed was 100,000 flowers from China websites linking to you, and you'd rank over the person who got a link from Dentistry Today. It's like, well, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. So the pioneers at Google, the engineers there, they're doing a really good job. They're starting to really turn the corner, and people are always trying to game the system, and you always can. I mean, there's always going to be ways to shortcut, to manipulate and find those loopholes. But I try and avoid that. I try and stay in line with what Google wants and with what searchers want. And that's why I think the Invisilinks method is so powerful. I think we're just doing what they want. And so, I guess the best way to put it is, there's 200 PhDs up in Silicon Valley that if you're willing to give a good experience and do what Google wants, there's 200 PhDs on your side who are trying to help you rank. And if you're trying to game the system, if you're trying to take shortcuts and you're trying to manipulate the loopholes in the algorithm, then there's 200 PhDs in Silicon Valley who are out to stop you. And it's just a matter of whether you want to be on their team or not. So I try and be on their team, and hopefully, so far, it's working out good.
They're either going to catch you now or later, one of the two. I mean, if not today, it will more than likely be tomorrow, because, I've mentioned this on the podcast before in passing, but, I used to own a big portfolio of websites of, 30 to 50 websites. And I was making advertising revenue off of those websites as like a passive income stream. And that's exactly what happened to me. Was I was paying, small amounts of money and gaming the system to be able to rank higher for these things. It was things that were it was just crazy. Like I had one that was hairlossshampoo.com. Like was one of mine that I would have, and you just write a bunch of articles, and you get people from China or India to link back to your website, and you'd rank higher. And then if people went to your website and they clicked an ad that was on your website, you'd get a quarter or something like that. And so, or you could sell like an affiliate offer or something like that along with it. And yeah, you just get, there was just literally one day I woke up and I was like, oh, I made, $150 yesterday. And then today I was like, oh, I made 10 cents because Google changed their algorithm to where none of my websites rank anymore. Yeah. So yeah, it's 100% a thing. They're going to get you now or they're going to get you later. And this was 5 years ago at this point, before I even owned this company. So they're pretty smart over there at Google. I wonder why they're one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the most innovative as well, right?
Yeah. I have faith in it. They have very big market share. I think it's around 80% right now. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's around 80%. And there's a reason for that. They provide better results. So you're either gonna play by their rules or suffer the consequences, like you said, now or later.
Very cool. Well, Justin, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. If anyone has any other questions or follow-ups, what's a good way for them to be able to get in contact with you or learn more about you or the dentalmarketingguy.com?
Yeah, dentalmarketingguy.com, and then there's actually a blog, and you're on it at least once. I think you're on it. Maybe I might have quoted you once as well. I've got the top experts in dentistry on this blog. They come on my show. They talk about things that I have no idea what they're saying about practice management and hygiene and all these things. But it is really educational. I mean, I only have really top level experts on there. So that's a really good resource. The dental SEO course it's called the Invisalign method. So you can really just Google anything, get dental SEO course, learn dental SEO, Invisalign method, and the page for that. There's a waiting list right now. But once that opens up, you might want to email me and get on the waiting list, because once that opens up, it is no technical jargon. It is all very real world, very easy to apply. You can have your dental assistant do it for you. So that's the thing I'm most excited about, is the dental SEO course. So I would encourage any dentists who are curious to Velscope their keywords. If you're looking at buying a practice, I think this should be standard. I think this should be something that you look at least get some preliminary numbers real quick and free. If you're not going to pay me, at least let me show you how to get some general numbers as far as search, and apply that towards your practice acquisition or where you might open a practice, because it's huge and it's only growing. Search is only growing.
Very cool. Well, thank you for those words of wisdom. And guys, if you would, please reach out to Justin. He's a great guy, very nice guy, very accessible too. So I'll reach out to him and say thanks for coming on the show today. And Justin, thanks again.
Thank you.
Very special thanks to Justin for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as I did. If you've been slacking with your SEO efforts, it's time to start putting the work in so you can get those results. So as a bonus for today, Justin has offered an exclusive 41-minute introduction video for his upcoming course, Invisalign Dental SEO. It's jam-packed with value. Even if you end up not purchasing his course, I highly recommend you give this exclusive introductory video a watch. It's free, it's fantastic, you should watch it. So get the bonus, simply text practice to 33444. Again, that's practice to 33444, or visit startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US. You'll also receive updates on the latest episodes of Start Your Dental Practice, helpful tips for owning and running a practice, and promotional opportunities direct to your inbox. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you liked the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.